Welcome to the Men Forge podcast. This is Cartwright Morris, your host here. Thank you for listening. Please rate as well as, leave a review for me. That definitely helps out getting my podcast out to people who may benefit from some of my interviews. Some of you may not know that Men Forge is more than just a podcast. It's actually coaching, courses, and content, kind of the 3 C's of Cartwright. Sounds cheesy now that I say it out loud, but it's kind of simple. Coaching, courses, and content. The course, if you're interested in the coaching, you can check out all 3 of these things on menarforge.com. The coaching part is you are welcome to go on the website, but as well as go to calvertassociates.com. It's where I do my coaching through a great counseling firm here in Birmingham, Alabama. I also do virtual meetings as well, so you can sign up through their website. That's calvertassociates.com. And then courses. This is something that's been in development for almost a year now, and it feels like even longer, just because I've been putting together so much content of how to reach young professionals, that age group of it was such a volatile time in my life where I just struggled with confidence, struggled to make decisions, struggled to figure out actually, what is my earning potential and what can I really be passionate about as well as good at, and also make money and provide and grow and give and all the things that I think many people in their 20s aspire to do. Many of us, we just don't know, we don't know, right? So my course, is my coaching as well as my course, is really built for that. We get more into specifics in the course, really through my studies and books I've read, people that I know that are successful as well as admirable in who they are as a person as well as they are in business and in building wealth. I've kind of, through my study, I've really broken down into 3 mindsets that I've noticed that they really hold on to, as well as 3 things they do well. And in my course, we break down kind of those 6 things. And if you are interested, go on menarforge.com and you can click and sign up. And you can also make a comment on any of my social media, as well as my email. You can email cartwright@menarforge.com if you want to know more information. You can set up a call with me. We can talk about it. So that's cartwright@menarforge.com. And then content, of course. I do have a email list that I love you to subscribe. I send out blogs probably once a month so that I don't overload your inbox. Just different things that might be helpful or just something fun that, it's insightful that I've been thinking about. And then, of course, obviously this content, the podcast. I learn from podcasts. I learn from talking to people and dialogue and how to unpack really their thinking, their mindsets. So that's a key thing that I do in all 3 of my things, is really addressing those mindsets, because that's generally how we grow and we change, is when we address how we think. You got to address that. With most of us, we focus on behavior. How can I change my effort, give more effort, or change what I'm doing? How do I change the way I look? Do these things where we focus solely on the outcome and less about the actual mindset and approach to things. And I think that's really how we grow. That's really how we change, transform the person we really want to be. So please go to menarforge.com. Check out all 3 of those things, my coaching, my courses, as well as my content. And, I look forward to hearing from you. All right. Today I've got an exciting guest. I'm really jacked about getting into some of his content and what he has to say. This is Connell Barrett with datingtransformation.com. He's got a book out. It's called Dating Sucks, But You Don't. The modern guy's guide to total confidence, What were the next two lines? They were all three really good. Total confidence. What was the next one? Yeah.
The subtitle of the book is, this book's subtitle is Too Damn Long. It's Dating Sucks, But You Don't. The Modern Guy's Guide to Total Confidence, Romantic Connection, and Finding the Perfect Partner.
Finding the perfect partner. At the end of the day, that's what we want. It's not about just hooking up with girls at the end of the day. That's not what it's about. Of course. Yeah.
Right.
It's about respecting women. We respect women. How about that? Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
So yeah, my first question is, Connell, I mean, really, I love always asking the early influences question. Who really influenced you, shaped your thinking early on about relating to the opposite sex and dating in general?
Yeah, I came to this in the mid 2000s. I'd reached my early 30s, and I never had confidence with women. I didn't date very much. Didn't have older brothers who took me under their wing to show me the ropes of dating. So I discovered a couple different gurus on the internet. There was a guy who went by the name of David D'Angelo, who came out with all these CDs and DVDs in the mid 2000s. And he said something really interesting in one of his seminars. He said, attraction isn't a choice.
Right.
It's not something we can help. We're just attracted to who we're attracted to. And his marketing was, if you learn how to sort of push those buttons of women, you can create attraction. Turns out that's not exactly true. And it's also a little bit sketchy the way he described it. But just the fact that there were guys out there saying, hey, I can help introverted, dorky people like you, Connell Barrett. They started to shape my thinking of, maybe this is learnable. Maybe I can learn the art of connection. And then the second biggest influence I had was early on, I began working with this guy his name is Owen Cook. And he was an old school pickup artist, approaching kind of coach. And now he does more self-improvement. But when I was learning these things in the late 00s, Owen Cook was out there running approaching boot camps where you learn about how to express yourself, how to talk to women in a way that it's authentic, but also can create those sparks. So in a weird way, I'm a big believer. I'm a huge believer in 100% respect, integrity with women and dating. At the same time, paradoxically, I started learning about this stuff from like these kind of underground pickup artist type of guys. Yeah. So I was able to learn some of the things that work. I was also learned what not to do, what doesn't work, and also what's a little bit sketchy. So I try to think of myself as I learned what to do, but also what not to do.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So, and I've heard you talk about this before of you had a condo in the friend zone that and unpack what that means. Like, I think for a lot of guys that we struggle with that, making that step out of being a friend of somebody and realizing, hey, I would say that's for me. My story is a lot of times being in certain circles and you become close with people, but you're not willing to just make that statement, that confidence to the next level of actually being friends with you is just not good enough. I really want to get to know you more.
Right. So, yeah. The friend zone is basically, I define the friend zone as this. You go on a date or you meet a woman who on paper, you should like each other. You have mutual interest. You both find each other attractive people, good dating candidates. But because you, the man, doesn't express himself in an authentically honest, romantic way, he treats her more like a friend than as a potential date or lover. Yeah. That interferes with the natural romantic polarity that exists between men and women. And that the woman says, gosh, I want to like him, but I'm just not feeling it. Hey, let's just be friends. I didn't feel that spark. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that doesn't mean if a woman wants to be your friend, that's a bad thing. Quite the opposite. Men should have lots of female friends. What it means is when two people should have some of that mutual interest, but she just can't feel the way that we want her to feel because of our behavior. In other words, being supplicatingly nice or being in or using scripted weird pickup artist lines, or basically just not knowing how to sort of strum the strings of the feminine emotions. That friend zone can hurt because it makes a man feel like, oh, I guess I'm just not attracted to women. I guess they just don't see me romantically.
Yeah.
So that's what I was dealing with a lot when I first got into this, was learning how to smash out of that.
Yeah. So let's jump back into your story. I'm kind of jumping around here because I'm really excited about you. But mid-20s. I mean, what was some of your struggles? What was some of your big revelations about really, one, discovering yourself and developing the confidence in who you are that eventually did translate into, asking women out or developing relationships beyond just socially? Today's episode is brought to you by Thrive Marriage Lab. If you want your marriage to thrive, this is a great opportunity to you, because strong marriages are the bedrock of strong churches, organization, families, and community. This is a 12-month pathway for any of you that are looking to really have weekly engagement with experienced marriage counselors, not just one, but many. So go to restory.life/thrive to get on the waiting list for this great program that starts in April. That's restory.life/thrive. And make sure you put the word Forge in the promo code to receive a discount on your monthly fee. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In my 20s, the biggest thing that was holding me back, and this is the biggest thing that holds most single men back who are struggling, is I did not see the value I have to women. I did not feel like I was enough. I just felt like I'm not that attractive guy women want to connect with. Here's a quick story. This is in the book. I talk about this in the book. Essentially, a lot of men play this kind of movie in their mind. And the title is Women Just Aren't Into Me. And in my 20s, I was working at a restaurant at a steakhouse, and I had a huge crush on this woman who worked there. Her name is Tara, beautiful, brown-haired, doe-eyed waitress. And I was in the break room one night, and I was sucking on a cherry lollipop. And she walks right up to me, gets eyeball to eyeball with me, and takes the sucker out of my mouth and puts it into her mouth very slowly and very suggestively. And now, don't get me wrong, every part of my body was feeling that. However, I did not think for 1 second that she was flirting with me. Wow. I didn't think I thought she just wanted my sucker. I didn't think she wanted my sucker. Yeah. Why? Because in my mind, everything was through that lens of, I'm just not good enough for women. I'm not attractive. I'm too introverted. I'm too dorky. So when I look back on my 20s, for any man's dating struggles, it starts with this limiting, disempowering belief of you're not good enough. And when you have that lens on the world, there's going to be lots of opportunities that you will not even see. Opportunities less vivid than the sucker example. And you're not even going to see them as options because of the way you see yourself. So the first thing single men need to do is start to look at themselves and buy into the romantic worth they do have to offer, and find other ways to improve themselves and make themselves even more attractive so they can feel that confidence and worth.
So, yeah, I mean, you hit on that a little bit of just changing your belief system about yourself. I mean, how does a man then go and explore of realizing I have a lot to give to a relationship? I have a lot of value to give to a woman. How does that process begin? How did it begin for you?
Yeah, it starts with it starts with a little bit of faith. You have to tell yourself something, even if you don't believe it. Your brain, your body might not fully believe it, but you have to say, hey, wait a minute. I know I'm a good catch for women. And here's a drill I do with my clients, and listeners of your podcast can do this right now if this resonates with them. Take a piece of paper or go on your laptop and write out a list of what I call the awesome list. 25 specific reasons that you're a great choice for women. 25. Maybe you speak this and make them specific, right? I'm a good kisser, you might write. I speak 2 languages. I have a job. I'm a good heart. I'm a good son. I'm funny. These reasons don't have to be amazing. They just need to be qualities you have. Because once you shift your focus from what you think you lack as a single man, when you stop focusing on, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not rich enough, I don't have 6-pack abs, those limiting beliefs are poison that you pour into your ear. Mm-hmm. You want to shift away from those things and say, wait a minute, I've traveled the world. I've been to 80 countries. I volunteer. My friends tell me I'm funny and witty, whatever it is. If you shift your focus from what you offer, confidence begins to come from the inside. And that will help you take better actions that can give you proof of your romantic worthiness to women, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I've heard you use the term radical authenticity. Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of that journey when we start realizing who we really are and our strengths. And then how do we then, I feel like, my story is, I think too many times I would approach women and then try to force a certain result, a certain thing to happen. And therefore, anytime that result didn't look close, I would be discouraged. My confidence would go down. They would respond to that in a negative way. And I think the more I got into of just like showing up and just really, I would want to just get to know you, the more success I would have with the opposite sex. And so I'm just curious, how then in meeting women, being around women, can we present obviously that authentic confidence, but authenticity as well, and not be so outside of ourselves that we feel like we've got to, which is a common male thing, whether it's around, or whether around each other in a business world or, wherever we are. As you know, men, we love to just puff out, like it's some survival mechanism, but unfortunately we tend to do that around women too much. And so, right. I'm just curious what your thoughts on that. Yeah.
I don't mind puffing out as long as it's coming from a real, again, authentic place. That's where you're in touch with your awesome list. Yeah. You're in touch with what you have to offer. Puffing out is fine. What is not going to help you is wearing masks. Yeah. Going on a date and putting on the mask of like the fake the alpha male, when maybe the real you is like a dorky, introverted thinking hipster type like me. I'm going to show women that real self on a date. If I do impression of that alpha guy or use rehearsed lines, or if I try to be somebody I think she wants, sure, I might be able to keep it up for a date or two, or she might find out really quickly because women are they have better judgment than a Richter scale. They're very sensitive to BS, right? Mm-hmm. But when you make this big shift to what I call radical authenticity, and that simply means leaning in to who you are and expressing your true but best self on dates, and letting your true personality come out, you will not attract all women, but you will be very attractive to the women who like your type. Yeah. Do all women like my dad jokes and my puns? Yeah. No, many of them don't. But women who really like that dorky, nerdy dad joke side of me are going to just love, wow, they're going to be really into me because I'm showing them that authentic side. So radical authenticity is basically you get in touch with the genuine, real value you offer women. And then you pour that into a shot glass and you say, hey, I'm not going to give you a watered down wine spritzer. I'm going to give you a shot of Jameson, the real me. Not everybody wants Jameson, but if they like it, they're going to catch a buzz off the good stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing you said that. I'm kind of curious. Would love to hear a dad joke that you've used before. But
oh man, one will probably come out on this podcast. Okay. I can't. I literally, it's hard to fake it. But if a dad joke arises, it'll come out.
But I guess, back to what I was sitting there thinking about was I'm sorry, what is the last thing you just said? It was really good.
I said, really, I like the analogy of when you go on a date, don't be a watered down well drink, a watered down wine spritzer, be your version of a shot of whiskey. In other words, distilled, real, strong. Not everybody wants Irish whiskey. But a woman who likes the taste of Jameson, quote unquote, will catch a buzz off of the real, true you. And then you've got a great date happening.
Right. And so that's a thought. I was curious of one, the rejection piece of that, but two, like of coming to the realization that I am not every man for every woman, like some people are just naturally connect better and on interest, personality, doesn't matter. Like, and how do we get to the place of, oh, this woman said no, this is a good thing because it helps me actually find someone actually probably I'm more compatible with.
Right.
And how do you get men to realize that we don't take so much ownership over rejection and realize I'm just not their shot of Jameson,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what you just said was really good. I mean, just realize that it's not rejection. First of all, we need to do two things. Mm-hmm. Actually, two things. One is embrace quote unquote rejection, because that's part of dating. Secondly, I'm going to contradict myself here. What if it's not rejection?
Okay. Tell me more.
What if no such thing as rejection in courtship dating? Well, now, don't get me wrong. If my girlfriend let's say I was with her for 2 years, if she shows up at my doorstep one day and says, I never loved you and I'm dating Ryan Philippe and you've never given me an orgasm. Okay, that's rejection. Okay, I would feel rejected.
Yeah, that would hurt.
But if I have a date with a woman I meet on a dating app and she says, hey, I'm just not feeling it. I don't think we're a good match. I wasn't feeling that vibe. Is that rejection, or is it really just her saying, you know what? I like pizza and you're tacos. Maybe I'm just I'll find somebody who likes tacos. Mm-hmm. She's a pizza person. It's not that I'm not enough for her. It's that we're not a good fit, not a good match. And I think the core source of anxiety and fear and pain in dating, 9 times out of 10, it's I feel unworthy, rejected, not enough. Feeling not enough for the opposite sex or for any gender you're attracted to is extremely painful. So we need to rewire the way we look at rejection and say, hey, you know what? Rejection's part of dating. But hey, what if it's not even rejection? What if it's just information? She likes the Beatles. I'm the Stones. Hey, the Stones effing rock. Nothing to be ashamed of there.
Yeah. They're still going too. I mean, the Beatles haven't played in 40, 50 years. So.
Right. Exactly. The Stones are ageless.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I am just kind of curious. What led you to then write this book? What need did you see in maybe your own life as well as other men's life of why this was important message to get out?
I wanted to write a book that would help the younger version of me, which I think is millions of men. Who is the younger version of me? Solid, good guy, nice, respects women, not a player, not only not a player, but doesn't know how to flirt, doesn't have that internal confidence that people and women are attracted to. So I wanted to take all the things that I've learned in my years training and then also coaching and put and bottle it up and put it to a step-by-step how-to book form and give guys a step-by-step roadmap to say, hey, here's what works. Here's what doesn't. The good news is that women actually want to date you. They don't want a pickup artist. They don't want some misogynist.
Yeah.
They want a good, solid guy who's got just a little bit of backbone, confidence, a couple cool flirting moves. And that's really all you need and right action. And I just wanted guys to know the formula so that they could find love, gain confidence, and make babies.
Yeah.
and I can claim credit for millions of babies.
Right. Exactly. You're the invert father of all of these children.
My flock.
Yeah, exactly. So did you reach out to women when writing this book and getting some of their opinion, or is this mainly just from your own relationships with women that you kind of came to a lot of these conclusions of what they really want? I
didn't do new reporting for the book very much in terms of getting quotes from women. It's mostly the various lessons and things that I learned while I went out and approached thousands of women. I went on hundreds of dates. I worked with 15 or 20 coaches. So it's all the stories. There's a lot of storytelling, a lot of step-by-step techniques. And so women are very, very well represented in the book from 10 years of my experience rather than newfound reporting. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Another thing you said was just finding, I think that's a hard thing for us. I think in general in relationships is opening up and letting people see the full you. So the hard part of, at the end of the day, we want a woman who falls in love and wants to be with me, the true real me. But yet that is so hard for them to show, right? I think that's why divorce is really, unfortunately, prominent, is people see a version that they present, and then when behind closed doors, when you can't hide anymore, the real version comes out. And so
it's very
go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
go ahead.
Cut you off. It's very simple what my book asks men to do, become radically authentic, but it's also very hard at first. In other words, it can be a huge discomfort level because if you go on, here's a quick story. I once went on a first date with a beautiful woman named Lauren, intelligent, gorgeous, cool, blonde. This is 15 years ago. And I really, really wanted her to like me, but I didn't think she would like my type. So I pretended to be something I wasn't. I told her I was a rugged outdoorsman. I made up lies about studying to be an airline or studying to be a pilot. Total BS. I wasn't trying to manipulate her so much as I felt like I was not good enough. So I had to be what I thought she wanted. And I later got a second chance. She did friend zone me, as deservedly so, but I later got a second chance. And that second time around, I made that shift and I was much more real and authentic with her. And it turns out she liked me all along. She just wanted to meet that real dorky, nerdy, dad joke dude. But so it was very scary for me to show that real self. But once you do it, it's actually very simple. You just speak, act from a place of genuineness, of truth, of authenticity, and vulnerability is probably an even better word for what it takes. There's a real vulnerability in saying, "Hey, I really like you. Do you want to go on another date with me? Because I think you're amazing."
Why is that so terrifying? Golly. Why is it that's like just to say I like you?
Yeah. It shouldn't be, but I know why it is. Because if you hear I don't like you back, that can feel very painful.
Yeah.
But again, it's not rejection. It's not enough. If she says, "Hey, I don't feel the same," we're not each other's type. But only by saying, "Hey, I like you," can you also occasionally hear back, "Wow, I think I like you too.
Right.
Let's go out again." And now two vulnerable, real people are starting to really connect in a real way. And that goes much deeper than just kind of dating small talk or cool lines.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Because I think at the end of the day, men, we want to be able to just stand on our own 2 feet and go, and actually be vulnerable, but then still be able to come back to a place where it's like, oh, I'm solid in who I am and I'm figuring out who I am by taking action, by being vulnerable, by trying, taking risk, especially with women, because at the end of the day, I think, and that's really kind of leads to my next question is, why is it important for us to have meaningful romantic relationships?
I think it's just part of who we are wired as people. Was we all need love. We all want that one-on-one, deep, true romantic connection for passion, for intimacy, for sex, for companionship, maybe to be parents one day. It's arguably, other than maybe being a parent, which I'm not, deep, passionate, connected, romantic love is arguably the most powerful thing that a human can feel. Yeah. And it's how we've propagated as a species for a couple 100,000 years.
Yeah.
So I think
it's led to our survival, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's why all the pop songs, almost all the great songs have been written about it. There's a reason for that, right? It's what we all need, or at least what we all want, and hopefully can get at some point. So, I could say at the same time, the fear of not getting it, the fear of rejection around this area can paradoxically lead to the scary bad outcome that we all fear, being alone, getting rejected. Because if you're afraid of rejection and how that might feel, and you never go out there and put yourself out there, then you'll never get the kind of love you want. And this really tragic self-fulfilling prophecy can happen, where the very thing that's keeping you from taking romantic risks is keeping you from getting romantic connection.
Yeah, that's not just going to happen overnight. You're not going to just wake up and it's perfect. And embracing the unknown, how powerful that really is. Because there's something I think you're really beautiful what you're doing, Connell. It's really trying within. It's almost like men were practicing learning how to be who we are in a dating relationship. So that way, when we do actually get into a marriage and a long-term relationship, we actually discover what beautiful, unconditional love and acceptance looks like. But if we don't do it during the dating, right? If we don't do it in the hard parts early on, then it's going to be more of a struggle within the long-term relationship. So anyway, I just think that's so fascinating. Just listening to you talk and hearing, listen to some of your content.
Thank you.
It's like, wow, you're really doing a great work. So,
thank you.
I got to ask you before you go, you got any funny, like, first date stories or anything like that? I gotta,
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you want a horror story? Or do you want,
let me ask this first, because and then maybe give me a horror story, because I really kind of do want to know. I've got, what are some first date strategies? Because I think that's another thing is men, we have poor strategies going into the first date. We're trying way too hard to impress. And what should be the goal of a first date?
I think you just nailed it. One of the tips I give my clients is on date, and this goes for all parts of dating, but especially first dates, is don't impress, express.
Yeah.
Focus on your expression. What I mean is becoming a less filtered, genuinely expressive person where that real personality is coming out, real thoughts. Whether it's the scary comment you're afraid to say, or whether it's a story from your past that will make her laugh. Expressing yourself gives you the best chance to do the most important thing on a first date, which is make her smile. If you can make her smile and laugh and have fun together, guess what? You're going to have a second date, and she's going to say, wow, I want more of this guy. By focusing on trying to impress, that's coming from a needy, self-gratifying place. It's like, I must impress her to get what I want. But I challenge men to make it a much more altruistic, giving approach to it. Like when I was dating a lot these last few months, and I said, you know what, tonight, all I care about is I want to make her smile in an authentic way, but I'm still going to be myself, but I want to find the code that makes her giggle and laugh, and we have fun together. Whether or not we're a match, who knows? But if you shift your focus from what you're giving and offering versus getting what you want, it's so much easier to feel confident, because it just feels better for both of you and likely leads to a better date. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What would be I'm trying to decide if I want to get you that story first, because I'm really curious about that. But I want to know, what's your advice for men dating in a post-quarantine COVID world? Yeah.
I think that as long as you want to do a little bit of due diligence before the date, and just make sure that, because we're still in this sort of one foot still in COVID land.
Mm-hmm.
Then out of the pandemic. But I think that you just want to do a little bit of due diligence and make sure that she's okay with in-person, no mask, indoor, outdoor. But once you find out whether you're not on the same page, all the old rules still basically apply. A great thing to do right now when you go on a first date is have a good answer ready for the question, how did you spend the quarantine? What did you do on lockdown?
Right.
Did you take up baking? Did you read Moby Dick? Did you take up a new hobby? Listen to some amazing podcasts. Don't just say, "Oh, I ate ramen noodles in my underwear for a year." Have a good answer to the question, "How did you spend the lockdown?" Because that's a chance to quote unquote impress, not by trying to impress, but by having done something really cool during lockdown. So for me, I wrote a book and I learned how to bake brownies. Those are two cool things to talk about on dates.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you get back out there again, if you're now getting back on the dating scene, think to yourself, hey, how did I grow? How did I spend the lockdown time, and have a story about that, or talk about why you did that?
Yeah. Because I would
ask
say
her how she spent the time, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that what the lockdown and COVID has really done is the need for a close, intimate relationship. I mean, I know that was some of the loneliest moments I felt was during the lockdown. And you're just like, oh man, I would really nice if I had a wife right now or a girlfriend to spend some time with.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you felt the same, but yeah.
Well, absolutely. My first post-vaccine date, I was just happy to walk into a bar and sit next to somebody less than 6 feet away without masks. So if you haven't yet begun to date, quote unquote, post-COVID, then the first thing I would suggest you do is just look at every date as a success, especially those first couple. Just if you and she are both there and you get to be with each other without hopefully too many precautions, and you have a high degree of safety and certainty, that alone feels a lot better than hiding in your basement for a year. So just gratitude to be out in a more normal world will feel good.
Yeah.
That helped me a lot this year.
Yeah. Gosh, gratitude. How about that? That's just a great mindset in general. Right. So, yeah. So yeah, give me that story. I'm really curious now. What's maybe an encouraging first date one, but maybe also a horror story, Yeah. I'd love to hear.
Well, I haven't had very many horror story first dates. I've had a lot of embarrassing situations. I once had a date.
Part of showing yourself. I think that's the trial and error part of, hey, letting yourself out there, right? That's gonna not land always.
I think the mistake I used to make on first dates before I learned what works is I did make it about try to impress her. I made it about me rather than her. And if a woman's not having a good time, then she won't want to have a second date. Or what happened to me one night is she and I just were not clicking. We're in this bar in New York City. And turns out there were a group of people who she knew just happened to be at that bar, including a guy she had kind of been interested in. So she literally left our date, and went over and joined these other people so she could talk to this other guy. So basically she left our date to go on another date.
Yikes.
During the date. So that was definitely a challenge for my ego. Yeah. But it wasn't really her fault. If I was showing her enough of a good time and putting that smile on her face, she would have stayed with me. So that was a tough first date. And I would say that another, this is also in my book, but I once flew cross country to surprise a woman who I'd had a long-distance flirtation with. We hadn't met yet, but we talked on the phone, we texted a lot. So I decided I'd do what they do in movies, which is big gesture, right? Make a big gesture. So I flew cross country. I literally showed up. I left on her doorstep a box of Victoria's Secret lingerie for her. a dozen roses and a card letting her know I was in town, thinking that we were about to begin this crazy, sexy, fun love affair in San Francisco, which is where she lives.
Too.
And she,
oh gosh,
okay, yeah,
I'm just sorry.
No, it's all right. And she ghosted me. I never heard back from her because what kind of message does that send? If a guy has to fly across country, maybe it works in rom-com movies, but in real life, if a guy tries too hard too soon, like love poetry after one date, dozen roses, tons of text messages, it can come across as needy and desperate, which is what it was, which is what I was at the time. So that was painful in the moment, but I now realize, hey, it wasn't her fault. I set off her desperate guy alarm.
Right.
And,
oh, wow.
That's what helped me decide to fix it.
Yeah. How does a guy discern that? I mean, because I think there is that fine line. I mean, I guess it depends how deep in the relationship you are of a big gesture versus, oh, wow, this is just me being desperate and thinking this is going to impress her when really there's nothing there.
Yeah, I would say small gestures early, bigger gestures later. Once you've become a couple, or at least you've been going out long enough to have a stronger sense of connection. So think small early, cute, funny, flirty text messages or memes after the first couple dates,
right?
Not long romantic love poems that you wrote about her,
right?
Or a really short, funny poem. Before I settled down with my girlfriend, I remember there was a woman on Bumble and we hadn't even met yet. And I could tell she liked me, but I just couldn't get her out on a date. So I said, okay, I'm going to ask you out in haiku form. And I wrote her a haiku, 5 syllables, 7, 5. And I don't even remember what the haiku was, but it was done to make her smile, make her laugh. And then she responded in a haiku that said yes to the date. So it's early on, think light, small gestures, no gifts, no flowers. Please don't fly across country to give a woman Victoria's Secret lingerie. But if you've been intimate, if you're now dating each other, if there's a real connection, absolutely. Take her out for dinner, flowers, those poems can work if she wants those things. But yeah, less is more. Do not date like a John Hughes 1980s movie character, because that's what I was doing.
Which I think that's an interesting, I love your thoughts on, because I would say a lot of my early dating was shaped because me and my dad loved watching rom-coms, and that shaped a lot of my thinking about the opposite sex. And it's just like, oh my gosh, most of that is not reality. And so what would be,
right?
Could you you are the real life Hitch guy. Is there any other rom-com movies you would say that's a big don't do that?
All of them.
All of them.
They're I love rom-coms. Don't get me wrong, but think about it. If you stood outside of a woman's window with a boombox, like John Cusack, and she'd probably call the cops. She wouldn't swoon. There's a great, the satirical newspaper, The Onion. There's a great headline that they ran once. It was, obviously a fake headline. It was rom-com movie behavior gets man arrested for stalking. So, because all those big gestures in the movies, it's fiction. Obviously, it's not real life. The back to the main message of my book. The reason I call it "Dating Sucks, But You Don't." The subtext there is, I want guys to know, hey, you're enough. You're more than enough for women. You don't need to do big gestures. You don't need to do love poems or do things from the movies. You can do those things later when the time is right, just to express real love or real connection. But early on, you are more than enough as a radically authentic man to have any given woman be attracted to you. So less is more. You are more than enough.
Yeah, and there's always like little things that speak so much more volume, especially these days, of just like showing up, asking insightful questions about her, calling her on the phone. That was a big one actually for my girlfriend, which is really funny that I actually called her before the first or second date. I can't remember. But anyway, I just called her, and that was like meant the world to her because most guys just text. And I was like, just the little things that we can do to really grab a woman's attention. So
here's a good tip, actually. I like that. Phone calling is very polarizing. Some women might think, whoa, that's weird. Why is he calling me? Right. But some women will be like your almost fiance. Here's a really good tip. Here's the good middle ground. Assuming you both have the same kind of phone, is audio messages are great. Because I had many women tell me on Bumble you can send audios, and if you have the same iPhone or if you both have iPhones, you can swap audio messages. I had lots of women tell me, wow, I really like that you're confident enough to leave a voice message. It gives women a more vivid imprint of you. If you have a nice voice and you're good with speaking, it only helps you. So feel free to, instead of just texting, feel free to pepper in a few voice messages, because then guess what she'll want to do? She'll reciprocate, probably, and you get to hear her voice. And that strengthens the connection and before you get that first date versus just texting. Yeah. So you get good at sending short, playful, fun voice notes. Women really like it.
Well, that's awesome, Connell. It's great to have you. Any other content you would love for my audience just to know about? I mean, you talked about your book. I know you got datingtransformation.com. Anything else?
Thanks for asking. The two things I'm most proud of course, is the book, Dating Sucks But You Don't, which you can find on my website. But also I read a week called Ask the Dating Coach, kind of like a Dear Abby advice column where guys ask me questions. And my column, Ask the Dating Coach, along with my book, is also available on my website at datingtransformation.com. So there's lots of free tips and free good stuff on my website. That's awesome. Well, it's great to have you, Connell. And wish you best of luck. I'm excited just to see what more you're going to come up with. So thank you so much for having me on, Cartwright. It was my pleasure. Awesome. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening to Men Are Forged podcast. Please go to Men Are Forged podcast at Spotify or Apple and rate and review. That would help me out tremendously. If you have any questions, email me at cartwright@menareforged.com. And for coaching, courses, and content, please check out menareforged.com. And I'll see you next time.